Hello, DBI, and welcome to another roleplay review, this time for Gag Month Interrupted Affairs. There we go. So, this log was a Gag Month, entry for, Gag Month. And it starred Cordio, Jean, Leaf, and the narrator. And its type is combat, comedy, dialogue, drama. And the synopsis to it, right here. Cordio and Jean visit the forum on Namek for the annual Namekian water-off, but is quickly interrupted when Leaf shows up fighting against a giant sea serpent. And they have a little extra note. They just want to add that they didn't think the final bits of this log were Gag Month worthy, but also did not want to make a separate log for such a short amount of pages. Wanted the stuff to be fairly dubious, canon-wise. Cordio not wanting to go back to Namek yet, or Cordio would not be going back to Namek yet. However, these events shown are really good and can impact the character stories in the future. Also, it does kind of abruptly end, and that's okay, I think. This is Gag Month log, after all, and it's a little silly, even if I would like to finish this properly. It's okay. And the synopsis kind of goes over perfectly what happens. There is, excuse me, a water off. Like, if you guys are familiar, we have like rib offs and things like that, kind of just like summer. We're going to cook our best food. Usually it's barbecue, and there'll be this big competition. But since this is Namek and they don't eat, it's all about different types of water. So the forum, which is the Namekian capital of the entire planet, is hosting this event, and Cordio and Jean are kind of just walking through having different types of water. And I really like the start of this log. I thought that it was a very funny and cool idea, and for it being Gag Month, I thought this was going to be like, that was the gag, is that they were each going to go in, try different types of water. You know, how can you change water in so many different ways? Well, here we go, and it's going to be kind of funny. And Cordio's all in. This is probably the most emotive I've seen Cordio's at the start of this log, where he's in his element, on his home planet, kind of, and it's really cute. He's kind of reliving his own personal childhood, I would have to assume, going to this, and he's just having a good time. He's very giddy about it. And Jean, being the fish out of water, is kind of like, okay, yeah, water, all right. And they have this, I'm considering it like a water bead almost, or like bubble tea, where it's just a little bit of water, wrapped inside of a bubble that you eat, and you bite it, and water goes in your mouth, and there you go. And Cordio takes one, and he's just like, oh my god, like, this is so unique, this is so innovative, we've never thought about having just water droplets before. And he's all into it, and Jean's just like, she takes hers, and okay, yeah, and trying to be very respectful to, the culture that is not her own. And I thought that was really funny. I thought that was going to be like the thing that was going forward. Excuse me. And then we later then see that, she finds one, and this guy is from Earth, and he has salt water. And she tries that, and obviously freaks out because it's salt water. You're not supposed to drink that. So I was like, okay, I'm picking up what you guys are putting down. I see where this is going. I see where this is going to kind of end up. And then the log just completely changes. Nope. There we go. And then for the rest of the log, Leaf happens. So I need to get rid of this. Oh my god, there we go. So then Leaf happens, and Leaf is in like a nearby body of water. I'm going to have to assume like major lake or ocean, and causes this massive tidal wave to come towards all the vendors as he's fighting a sea serpent. And it's kind of like just mid battle. He kind of just emerges. He has Hunter, and he's just swiping away at this one head at first. And because it's DBI, and it can never be easy, he cleaves off the one head, two more grow. It's actually a Hydra, and that's most of the log. These guys are now fighting this giant Hydra, and I mean that's kind of it. that's where the rest of the log kind of goes, and because it's just combat. Like, I'm not going to go through post by post. There was some nice character moments where this is the first time that Jean meets Leaf, and her introduction to him is just, here's this Konats with half of a wit left with him, and he's just fighting this sea monster and doing the most crazy thing ever. And this is one of those where, like, it looked like you guys were having just a lot of fun. So I will never stop fun or not want fun for happening. But most definitely when Leaf shows up, like, the water off plot that seemed to be going on with Jean and Cordio definitely gets lost. And we don't ever return back to it, which I honestly was a little sad, because I thought that was an interesting idea. I liked where that was going, and but sometimes you just want to fight a giant monster, and monster of the week, absolutely. And they take on the baddie, they take out the baddie. And the one really cool moment was that, Leaf is kind of powering up Hunter, his axe that he got at Yuletide, his soul weapon. But to power it up, he has to sing to it. And then it gets this, like, sonic energy into it through his singing. And I thought that was a really cool touch. I thought, the connection between sound waves and songs and music isn't really displayed a lot by Konatsu. We haven't really had a lot of Konatsu on page anyway, but I thought that was a really nice touch with it. And, Cordio getting to be Cyclops and eye laser the shit out of his half of heads, while also being like the rocket pack that jettisons Jean up into the air. And Jean and Leaf, have a really nice moment where he's like, hey, like, he took his out, I need you to take yours out. Here's Hunter. She is me, I am we. She is me, I am we, she is me. We hear that a lot. And Jean kind of just dumps all of her RP energy into one big fiery swing of the axe. Jean gets the kill. Pretty much the day is saved, right? And it's a lot. Like, there's Leaf using his spring jack trap to kind of launch Cordio and Jean. It feels like Leaf still isn't fully in control of his flight, so he seems kind of more of like a bullet being flung around, and he just barely stops himself from, like, going out of frame, right? Like, he's like, pew! And he's just all over the place. Very, very Looney Tune-ish. And it's almost like Leaf doesn't have a care. I won't say he doesn't have a care. He just really enjoys the chaos. He has embraced the chaos. And again, I think when you guys kind of got a feel for, like, how this log was going and how much more it could be, you guys kept amping it up and amping it up and amping it up. And, again, it just looked like fun on page. So absolutely, why not? Then you guys take it out, and the very end of the log, I gotta say, is where I was like, okay. Like up in the synopsis, it even says like, hey, this log kind of ends abruptly. End of the log doesn't have the same feeling as it did for like gag month. It's not really gag month worthy. And the end of the log, yeah, I, it's not that I disliked it. I disliked Leaf in this part, like a lot, because he gets incredibly preachy. Like he pretty much says like, you guys hesitate too much for your kills, and kind of is like, if you have talent, if you have power, you need to do stuff with it. Like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your point? And Cordio is kind of upfront, like, yeah, like I want to use my power to, protect people and protect my friends and keep them safe. And he's like, oh, that's not good enough. It's like, okay, but like I'm fighting for the side of. He's kind of like, I'm fighting on the side of justice. I'm trying to do good. Like, that's not good enough either. You got to do more. You got to have belief. And it just kind of, yeah, it came off as really preachy and kind of like, who the fuck asked you? Especially coming from a character who never really had talent before, never really had powers. Like, he was doing the right things for all the right reasons, but now he's like, yeah, like you, almost like you don't deserve your power is kind of the way that Leaf was coming off as. And like, I don't know, if I were Cordio, I probably would have decked him in the face. I probably just would have been like, you said that you were even gonna cut me down here, because why? It was very, like, Leaf got very serious very quickly, and I think he was very wrong. And if this is like a heel turn, like a almost, I won't say like a villainous turn for Leaf, then that kind of makes sense, right? Like, having a villain that believes in themselves and what they are doing is right, and having conviction towards it, even though the audience and everybody else knows, like, well, that's not the right thing to do, right? Like Killmonger from Black Panther, like his whole thing was, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna arm all the people and we're gonna fight back. And it's like, okay, yeah, like you're kind of right, but you're also gonna like incite war and stuff. That's not right. But you kind of really believe it. That's kind of what makes a good villain. Not evil for evil's sake, but someone doing all the wrong things for what they feel like is the right reason. If that's what the path we're kind of taking, this makes more sense. Outside of that, I just feel like Leaf was coming off as kind of like a dick. I'm not gonna lie, he just really was not. And even Cordio was like, I'm confused here. I'm saying to you that I do want to protect people. I observe things, but you're saying I should like act first and think later, but I'm not you, so I don't have to act the way that you want me to. That doesn't mean we have to be enemies, and no, that doesn't mean you have to cut me down. So that's where like the ending was just kind of weird, and I if I could, if it weren't a month later that I were reviewing this, I would even say like, hey, maybe reapproach this log. So would I say like axe this part? Probably. I would probably say just get rid of this part. Like, I dislike it that much that if it never happened and we just retconned it, I'd be okay with it. But, it's not my story. It's not my tale. So this is up for you. Outside of that, though, again, you guys had a lot of fun with this log. I will lament the not being able to see the water off. Maybe, it can be postponed and we'll visit it again. Or maybe it's a monthly thing and we can see the water off. But also because we don't really explore Namekian culture, so just seeing something like a big festival on Namek was kind of, I was a little excited for it. But anyway, it was a good log. I hope you guys had fun. You'll get high marks once I log back into the mud and get to rewarding, and I guess I'll just see you guys next time.